let me just start here. You're watching what happens in California and Los Angeles. What's going through your mind as the mayor of Denver?
Yeah, I mean, I understand where the frustration is coming from when you're targeting people in Home Depot parking lots to pick up on the way to work, or when you are randomly targeting folks with no violent criminal history, but you're just trying to hit a quota that the president has set, a number of people he wants to see rounded up. I think that's really disruptive to communities. And so this is why we said from the beginning, we don't want to see enforcement at churches or hospitals or schools. That is disruptive to public safety. So I understand that frustration, and people should be upset with the Trump administration when you have folks being pulled off the streets and deported to, to foreign countries for foreign prisons. That's scary. And so I understand that. And I think what I'm proud of about the way that Denver has responded to this is that there is a way to be frustrated and be angry and to protest and to do it peacefully. I think that the problem when you have folks that are not peaceful in their actions is that you invite exactly the kind of response that Trump wants to bring, which is to say, see, these cities can't manage themselves, so we have to send in the National Guard, we have to send in the Marines. He's been threatening to do that for 6 months and waiting for a chance to do it. We intend for Denver not to give him that chance to do it here.
There were protests last night. A small number of protesters got into confrontations with police. 17 people were arrested. Do you see those videos of what happened late yesterday evening and say, I hope the Trump administration doesn't use this as an excuse to send the National Guard or federal forces into Denver?
Yeah, I mean, I was in regular touch with our police chief and our director of safety all last night. I want to say first, I'm incredibly proud of our police department and how they managed this last night. I'm proud of the folks who came out and protested peacefully. The great majority of Denverites were peaceful. We've had protests almost every single week since Trump became president. We've had protests almost every week for the last 2 years, and every one of them has been peaceful. I think this is the first time we've had any arrests in maybe more than a year at one of these type of events. And that is because there were a very small number of people that were hostile and were violent. They're throwing rocks and bottles at officers. They're damaging police cars. They're damaging buildings. There is no small business in Denver that is instituting illegal immigration practices. There is no Denver police officer who is a part of the Trump administration's practice in immigration. You're making no statement by assaulting our officers. You're just making the city less safe. So we're not going to tolerate that, and we'll step in on it. And we want folks to come and protest peacefully, but they should make sure the folks that come with them also are here to protest peacefully, because you damage the movement when you start committing crimes and damaging property.
What goes through your mind when you see those confrontations? Do you say, is the president watching this? What will he do if he sees these videos?
Yeah, I'm frustrated and I'm angry when I see that, because I think it sends the wrong message about where Denver is and what Denver believes. I think it hurts the clear moral argument that folks who are fighting against the ICE policies have. I think we lose the moral high ground when you start committing acts of violence or vandalism. And so I think the city's done a great job of protesting peacefully. I want to make sure we keep doing that, because there's no reason to invite a new battle with the president that he would love to start in a city that doesn't have a crisis.
Do you worry that he will start that battle, though?
Well, I think they're looking for every chance they can to try to make this the news story in every city in America. And the real story is there is no migrant crisis in this city right now. Folks have arrived, they've gotten themselves to work, they're supporting themselves. They're trying to bring crises to cities that don't have them anymore, because that's good for their theater. But it's not good for residents, it's not good for our migrants, it's not good for our businesses.
We've talked hypotheticals in the past about the president using federal forces or the National Guard to come into Colorado or Denver and do whatever he wants to do with those forces. Those hypotheticals have become reality right now in places like Los Angeles. How would Denver respond if the president were to send in federal forces or the National Guard into somewhere like Denver?
Yeah, I think the first really important step for us is, the key for us as Denverites is that we don't need to reach that stage, right? What we know is we can protest peacefully, people can be heard, and we can enforce the rule of law. We can have both the First Amendment and public safety. And this is why I think last night also proved Denver doesn't need any help to manage this problem. We'll respond appropriately and peacefully and with the right amount of force to the right amount of behavior, but we do not need a National Guard, we don't need any federal support, we don't need Marines, and there's not going to be behavior on our streets that's going to show that there's a need for that. We're not going to have folks lighting cars on fire. That's not going to happen in Denver. So we think we will continue to make the case there is no need for federal intervention, and we will oppose it if they try to bring it.
it's one thing for the mayor to say, we aren't going to light cars on fire or, assault police officers or whatever it might be, but I imagine that you are the one out there on the front lines protesting. What if protesters aren't? Let me ask it this way. What if protesters do light cars on fire? What if protesters do assault police officers? Do you have confidence in the Denver Police Department that they can handle it by themselves?
I have 100% confidence in the Denver Police Department, and that's exactly what we'll do. Is if people are violent and they're damaging someone's small business, we're going to arrest you. If you are assaulting an officer, we're going to arrest you. If you're trying to light cars on fire, we're going to arrest you. And we're entirely clear on that. And that has not been the pattern of any of our protesters over the last year and a half. So I don't know where these handful of more violent individuals came from that were out late at night, but they are not our normal Denver residents who want to raise their voices. And we want the community to step in and say, you don't represent us, in the same way that I will say that.
Is that what's at stake here? If these protests get out of hand, the president might send in the National Guard. Is that what's at stake right now?
I don't have no idea what he will do, but I do know if folks here are trying to advocate to protect migrants in this city, the worst thing you could do for those folks is to try to attract the president and the federal and National Guard to come to your city. That doesn't help any of us. And so I think, and I want to remind people, when you think that you are being civilly disobedient or making a public statement by throwing a rock or a bottle at a Denver police officer, I want you to know we have folks in the Denver Police Department who literally took bullets to protect migrant shelters in the city from racists who wanted to come and attack those sites. These are the folks who have been out protecting the 40,000 folks who arrived in the city. You might as well throw a rock or a bottle at a teacher in a Denver public school who welcomed a newcomer into their classroom, because these folks have provided critical public services to keep the city safe. They are not your enemy. They are your ally, and folks should act that way.
The Denver Police Department has been the subject of lawsuits following the 2020 protests.
Yes.
Tens of millions of dollars worth of settlements were given out.
Yes.
Did the city of Denver, did the Denver Police Department learn anything from the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests, fully acknowledging that you weren't the mayor at the time?
Yeah.
Did you learn anything at that time that is now being used for these protests?
Absolutely. Credit to the police department. They've transformed their practices. There's a new chief, obviously, since then. He's transformed the culture of the organization and what it does. And we've changed how we approach these. And that's why we haven't had this conversation for the last 2 years, is because, keep in mind, after October 7th, we had a year of very significant Palestinian protests in the city, in this city hall, in our council chamber upstairs. Every one of them was managed without an arrest because their policies have been different. When you are assaulting an officer, that's a different question. We had people last night that were assaulting other protesters. We had people that were cutting open other protesters' heads. We had to step in to protect protesters from protesters. And so when you engage in that kind of behavior, we're going to have to step in. I think the department's done a fantastic job of changing the way that we operate to say, we're residents of this city too. We care about it. We're going to help you raise your voice. We also are going to make sure the city stays safe, and that means you don't need to destroy someone's small business to be able to raise your voice on federal immigration policy.
You alluded to it, but I don't know if you know specifics of it. Is that the guy who smacked somebody in the head with a skateboard last night?
I think that's the one. I just know I got a report on injured protesters who were injured by other protesters.
Where do we go from here? You watch what happened in Los Angeles. You watch what's currently happening all across the nation. The Trump administration says that they are going to continue to send ICE caravans and do ICE raids specifically targeting Democratic cities. Do you fully expect to be put in a position where you are dealing with more ICE raids or a National Guard or federal forces coming into the city of Denver?
I want Denver to show we can do this differently. This is sort of the Denver way here is a different path, which is we can both have people raise their voices, be clear and supportive of their migrant neighbors. I support that same policy. And we can still have a city where we do that peacefully, which is, last night we had a Coldplay concert at Mile High. We had a Rockies game downtown. I was at the Performing Arts Complex that was packed full with people. You can walk out for dinner at a restaurant, and yes, you can join a march for an issue you care about. We should be able to sustain all of those things peacefully. We've done that before. I think we can do it again now. So I want to really send the message to folks that are planning to come to other protests. Great, come and raise your voice, be peaceful, be supportive, be in the spirit of the people that you are supporting. And those people are here saying, I just want to work hard and be able to get a job and support my family. They're not asking you to commit crimes on their behalf. They're asking you to just stand in solidarity with them.
This almost sounds like a no tolerance policy.
I just think that for us, just a matter of We expect our residents to be held to a high standard. They do that. We hold our police to a high standard. We will do that. And we think that's worked for a long time. But just because there is bad behavior in other parts of the country does not mean there needs to be bad behavior here. And we don't expect that, nor do we tolerate it.
My final question for you, knowing that if these protests were to get out of hand, what the president might do, what he's shown he will do in places like California, knowing that if these protests get out of hand, is this impacting the way that you and Chief Thomas and the Denver Police Department are handling these protests? I mean, 17 arrests on the first night of protests is a fair amount of arrests. Going back to 2020, I don't know if we had 17 arrests on most nights. Are you handling these protests differently this time around, knowing that if they get out of hand, the president could send in federal forces?
Yeah, my concern is not really about the president. My concern is about people in Denver feeling safe. It's about the small business owner who's waited 2 years for the 16th Street construction to be done so she can finally open her business and have people come in again. I'm not going to have her board up her business again because they got 2 rocks thrown through it because some angry protester decided to take it out on a small business owner. That is not our value system. That's not what the city needs. That's not what we're going to tolerate. And I think, again, 99% of the people that were there last night are peaceful, are thoughtful. They want to support their neighbors. They want to support their city. And we're going to help them do that every time they want to. But I think the people that miscarry this mission into violence, that's just not tolerated here. And I think the people who care the most about this issue would say that doesn't help them. It doesn't help them, it doesn't help us. And on that part, we're also clear.
Mayor, those are the questions I had for you. Anything that I've missed or anything that you want to make sure we talk about?
No, I would just say that I think that sometimes, the best news is no news. We track every week, a new protest in the city, and for 2 years, people have been really thoughtful and responsible. We think as tensions rise around the country, it's easy for those tensions to feel contagious. I think this is the moment for us to say what we've been doing as a city works. We respect each other. We create spaces for people to protest. We celebrate that First Amendment right, and we do it peacefully. In the most heated of moments is the time when we have to stay the most calm, and that's what I think this city should do.